Gold with Danny Golding starts now.
That's gold, Jerry.
The Gold with Danny Golding starts now.
That's gold, Jerry. Gold!
San Francisco!
And the Giants have won. They have won the World Series for the third time in 5 years.
The road to redemption has brought the Warriors back home. The Golden State Warriors are the 2017 NBA champions.
Now your host, Danny Golden.
What is going down? YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Welcome to another edition of The Gold with Danny Golding here on this Saturday night, February 8th, 2025, the eve of Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans, a rematch of Super Bowl 57 between the two-time defending champion Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, of course, it has been a year since the 49ers, the team that my YouTube channel has been mostly set around for years, lost last year's Super Bowl in Las Vegas to the Chiefs, a game that, similar to the year before, could have easily gone the other way. Now, despite the rematch from 2 years ago between these two great teams, this past week, thanks to the crazy week we had in the NBA, this past week has been more NBA-centric than NFL-centric, despite it being Super Bowl week. Last Saturday, it was announced that the Dallas Mavericks had traded Luca Doncic alongside Maxi Kleber and Markieff Morris to the Los Angeles Lakers in exchange for Max Christie and Anthony Davis. That trade absolutely shocked the NBA world. The Mavericks deciding to trade Luca coming off an NBA Finals appearance, which would have not have happened if it was not for his offensive dominance. The Mavericks decided he was too poor on defense and out of shape, so they say, and they decided to trade him to the Lakers and have his replacement be Anthony Davis, who's 6 years older. Luca turns 26 on February 28th and is in his prime. One of the best players already in their franchise history. One of my longtime friends who's a Mavericks fan, I saw a post on Facebook that it would have been equivalent to if the Mavericks had traded Dirk Nowitzki following their NBA Finals appearance in the 2005-2006 season, which of course Dirk later led them to a championship in the 2010-2011 season against LeBron James in his first season in Miami. Another pretty decent move last weekend was De'Aaron Fox being traded from the Kings to the Spurs. But as a Warriors fan this past week, it has been an absolute roller coaster ride. Because just on Tuesday, longtime Phoenix Sports Talk radio host, who I actually grew up listening to since I was 10 years old, John Gambadoro, reports that it is likely that Kevin Durant is going to be traded to the Warriors and reunited with Steph Curry and Draymond Green, Kevon Looney, Steve Kerr, of course, and so many others who the Warriors who he had won 2 championships with. Now, there was many talk as it was rumored that Draymond Green was going to be part of that deal. It was likely that Jonathan Kuminga is going to be part of that deal. But when I see this tweet from Gambo, I'm like, okay, let's go. KD is coming back to the Warriors. He's coming home. And what has been an up and down year for the Golden State Warriors, a return from Kevin Durant would have completely changed the momentum and the structure of the season. But then less than 15 hours later, it's reported that KD does not want to return back to Golden State, which then turns into a huge swing of emotions from earlier, as it's looking like the Warriors might not make a move at all. Now, my question is, why would Kevin Durant not want to return back to a team where he won 2 championships with? Does he not want to play with Draymond Green? I mean, they've had beef before. I mean, after winning their 2nd championship in a row, you see them brawling in a random game in November against the Clippers. You saw them exchanging words. You saw them going back and forth with each other. And obviously a lot of Draymond's ego being what it is, a lot of people don't want to play with Draymond. But Kevin Durant did go on Draymond Green's podcast, and supposedly their beef was squashed. So I don't know if that's the reason. Does he want to be able to win a ring that does not involve Stephen Curry? But that's a possibility as well. But I just do not get why Kevin Durant would not want to return to the team that he won 2 championships with, that he's had the most success with. And this second go around, if he would have returned back to Golden State, he could have been the legit Warrior back then, because after the Warriors acquired him on the 4th of July of 2016, after losing in 7 games to the Cleveland Cavaliers, coming off that 73-9 best regular season of all time, Kevin Durant was just an added piece for the Warriors. When he won those 2 championships and brought them close to a 3-peat, only losing to the Raptors in the 2018-2019 season, which likely only happened because KD was injured for most of that playoff series, or for most of that playoff round, I should say, or for most of that entire playoffs, to put it accurately, as he got injured in that Clippers series. And he did, of course, return back in Game 5, where the Warriors got a damn impressive win against the Raptors when it looked like they were going to be eliminated. But, I mean, his return did not last long, and the Warriors did not end up 3-peating. But in all those times when KD was balling out with the Warriors, 2 championships, another finals appearance, he did not feel like a true Golden State Warrior. But had he returned last week to the Warriors, he could have actually won them. Likely wouldn't have been this year, probably could have been next year, though. He could have won them a championship with Steph, with Draymond, and he would have been viewed more as a legit Golden State Warrior. Shout out to the 34 people watching on Twitter/X. Also live streaming on Insta. Let me actually real quickly see if my thing is going good on. It's supposed to be live on Instagram. I don't know if I am or not, though. Let's see. Huh. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if the Instagram live is working. Okay, yeah, it's saying I am live. So yeah, if you're live, if you're watching on Instagram or YouTube or Twitter, you can type in the chat. Hopefully I'm able to see that. But let's see. But yeah, we do have 34 people watching. I don't know if it's mostly bots because it's showing them all being viewed on Twitter/X. And there's not a whole lot of viewers, but thanks nonetheless. overall. I know it is a little bit late. It's about to be midnight my time, so it's about to be February 9th, but in the Pacific Standard Time, where I know I broadcast for a lot of people, it is still February 8th and about to be 11 o'clock. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter/X at Danny Golding. You can subscribe to me on YouTube at Danny Golding TV. Now, for a little over a month, six-time All-Star forward Jimmy Butler has wanted out of the Miami Heat, and there were many speculations on what his next destination would be. The Warriors, about a month ago, it seemed like was going to be a possible landing spot for him. But more recently, it was reported that the Phoenix Suns was the team that he was most targeting as his next destination. But on Wednesday, when the KD back to the Warriors trade talks officially end, with him saying he does not want to return to Golden State, the Jimmy Butler to Golden State talks resume. And sure enough, a few hours later, Shams Charania reports that Jimmy Butler has been traded to the Warriors in a multi-team deal, which my Texans fan isn't going to even attempt to try to explain. But all you really need to know on that is Andrew Wiggins goes to the Miami Heat. Who's a tremendous part of the Warriors 2022 championship season, the last championship that the Warriors had won. They likely would not have won it if it wasn't for Andrew Wiggins. The Dubs also lose Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Anderson, and Lindy Waters III. Now, Andrew Wiggins, of course, was the #1 overall pick in the 2014 draft by the Cleveland Cavaliers, who later flipped him to the Minnesota Timberwolves. And then in February of 2020, about 6 months after the Warriors lost KD and a month before the world completely went to shit with the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Dubs flip D'Angelo Russell and other assets for Andrew Wiggins. Now, Wiggins was a good Warrior. Like I said, they likely would not have won the 2021-2022 championship if it was not for Andrew Wiggins. He unfortunately had to take a lot of time off the past couple seasons due to his dad being extremely ill, who later ended up passing away, which was unknown at the time of his absence. He was having a pretty good season this year, but was rumored to be the #1 trade asset that the Warriors would use if they were going to try to make a big move before the trade deadline. But the absolute best thing about this trade was the fact that the Warriors did not have to trade Jonathan Kuminga. Now, there's been a lot of shit going on with Jimmy Butler for over a month. He was suspended on January 3rd for 7 games, citing multiple instances of conduct detrimental to the team throughout the season. The suspension followed reports of Butler stating that he did not want to return to Miami. He was not happy playing in Miami. And I'm just thinking, like everyone is, how the fuck could he not be happy playing in South Beach? So that was, at that point, that was kind of the biggest red flag. I was like, well, I don't necessarily want Jimmy Butler if he's not even going to be happy in Miami. I mean, the team you're playing for is a lot. I understand there's a lot more than just the area where you're living in, which is one of the nicest areas to live in. You also, want to be on the team that fits you and a team that you're happy on. He ends up returning to the Heat on January 17th, my birthday, in a game against the Nuggets where he scores 18 points in a 133-113 loss. But then on January 22nd, he once again is suspended by the Heat for 2 games due to a pattern of detrimental contact, where he missed a team flight to Milwaukee earlier in the day to play against the Bucks. And then on January 27th, the Heat suspended Butler for indefinite period of time without pay after he walked out of practice before a game against the Mavericks. So Jimmy Butler, a lot like Draymond, seems to have a big ego. And he was not who I wanted necessarily in free agency. I mean, especially when it was rumored that KD was going to go back, which I thought was, absolutely not available before that, before it was rumored that he was going to be back. And at this point, it looks like he is going to stay with the Suns. But with Luca Doncic being traded to the Lakers from the Mavs, that absolutely opened up the fact that, hey, maybe anyone is available. I mean, with the way the Warriors have played this year, there's a lot of people that thought that, maybe even the Warriors might even try to trade Steph Curry, as crazy as that sounds, which hopefully never happens. But, this has been an up and down year for the Warriors. They started off 12-3, but since then have just been downhill for a while, then uphill again, then downhill again. But tonight, Jimmy Butler makes his Warriors debut against his former team that he was drafted by and played for from 2011 to 2017. The Chicago Bulls. He scores 25 points in a game where the Warriors came back from being down 22 points midway through the third quarter to win 132 to 111. So who knows? I mean, Jimmy Butler's first game, which looked for a while like they were going to be embarrassed by the Bulls, they end up getting a win. So the Jimmy Butler era in Golden State starts off good. Some other interesting NBA stories this week. Devin Booker becomes the all-time leading scorer in the history of the Phoenix Suns, scoring 15,666 points in a win against, or actually being a loss against the Portland Trailblazers. On Thursday night's game where the Warriors lost to the Lakers in LA 120 to 112 in a game that ended with a pissed off Draymond Green and a pissed off Steve Kerr following a miss 8-second violation call against the Lakers. LeBron James, who scores 42 points in that game, becomes the second player in NBA history to score 40 points, being past the age of 40, with the first, of course, being Michael Jordan. So a lot of history has been made in the NBA this past week. All right, let's get to some NFL stuff real quick. Yes, it is still the eve of Super Bowl 59. But let's just recap. Let's recap the 2024-2025 NFL playoffs. Now, in the wild card round, the only interesting game we had was Jaden Daniels leading the Washington Commanders to a game-winning drive that set up a game-winning field goal to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 23-20. The following week, the Commanders went into Detroit and absolutely stunned the number one seed 15-2 Detroit Lions, coming off their bye week, 45-31. I was visiting the Bay Area for my birthday that week, so I was actually at the Warriors game on January 18th when that game was, the day after my birthday, when that game was being played. Oh, shout out JD keeping the faith. Welcome to the stream. So I'm at the Warriors game, and I'm just looking at my phone and seeing that the Commanders are leading the Lions by a pretty strong margin before the second half. And I'm like, are we going to see an upset here? And sure enough, we did see an upset as the Commanders absolutely upsetted the Detroit Lions, who was the best team in the NFL this season, who I really thought was going to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. So the divisional round was a pretty good week. We also had, that was a pretty good weekend. We also had some good games between the Rams and the Eagles, and the Bills and the Ravens. And that Bills Ravens game, actually, I wish that some of my YouTube squad that's normally watches my live streams. I know I did it a little bit late this time, but I actually met up with some of the YouTube squad that watches my streams. Rockin' New Era 84, AJ Cruz, Ernie Chavez, Tacky, Pat H, some people that watch my YouTube live streams and I interact with on the KMBR 95.7 The Game YouTube chats as well, and the other chats of the content creators here on YouTube. I'm gonna keep this on my StreamYard board for the next time I do a stream when they're watching, and I will send them the archive to this as well. But we watched that divisional game between the Bills and the Ravens. Okay, JD says that I am muted. Okay, JD, can you hear me now? Let me know if you can hear me now. Let me know. Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. All right. So yeah, I don't know when it cut off. Probably when I heard it beep. So I'm just gonna, let's see, where was I? As a Niner fan, this Super Bowl, I'm torn because I don't want either of these teams to really win. Going into championship weekend, when it was the Commanders facing the Eagles in the NFC Championship and the Bills facing the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, like most of the entire country, I wanted it to be a Commanders and Bills Super Bowl. But with us having the matchup that we have between the Eagles and the Chiefs just like 2 years ago, as a Niner fan, I am going to be rooting for the Kansas City Chiefs to three-peat as much as I hate to do it, because I do not want the Philadelphia Eagles to be the team that knocks off the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I do not want them to be the first team that beats the Chiefs in the Super Bowl that isn't quarterbacked by Tom Brady. If any team is going to knock off the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, I want it to be my San Francisco 49ers. And it looks a lot better for the 49ers if the Chiefs are able to complete this three-peat, because it'll show that the only reason that Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers do not have a Super Bowl ring is because they had to face the best dynasty in NFL history twice. And yes, absolutely. Now, despite the fact that I am cool with some Eagles fans, shout out to Rob Abrams, a crazy motherfucker, one of the biggest partiers I know. Shout out to Phillies Orca. Shout out to Where Ya Hiding. I'm cool with some Eagles fans. Shout out to PR, of course, as well. Longtime friend on here. Despite them, the Eagles have some pretty horrible fucking fans, some pretty classless fans. And they already have a Super Bowl within the past decade, unlike the 49ers. So yes, JD, keeping the faith. Just like you say, the Chiefs winning changes absolutely nothing for the Niners. Casey already has his bragging rights. If Philly wins, we'll never hear the end of it from the Eagle fans. Their dumbass fan base still talks about us. Hey, that's the main reason. Well, actually, the main reason is because I don't want them to be the first team to knock off the Chiefs that isn't quarterbacked by Tom Brady, when the Niners couldn't do it twice. But another big part of the reason is I do not want to see those Philly fans, those classless fucking fans, celebrate a championship. I'm sorry. Apologize for all my friends on here that are Eagles fans, but I do not want to see that happen. No way, no way. Now, historically, for the 49ers as a franchise, this is one element where the Chiefs completing the three-peat, which would be where they would become the first team in NFL history to win 3 in a row, is not good for the 49ers as a franchise, because in 1988 and in 1989, the 49ers won back-to-back Super Bowls, and they were going for a three-peat in 1990, but then Roger Craig fumbled against the New York Giants, which ended their three-peat hope. So another way you can look at it is you don't want the Chiefs to be the first team to three-peat when the Niners back in the late 80s and the very early 90s were not able to complete a three-peat. So that's one other way to look at it as well. But yeah, this matchup tomorrow, it's definitely the matchup between the two best teams, but it is the matchup that America did not want for 2 reasons. One of them being the fact that they hate both fan bases for a majority of a lot of the two fan bases. Of course, the Eagles have, some really bad classless fans that treat opposing fans like shit, and then the the Chiefs, despite having a lot of loyal fans that are actually from KC and have been Chiefs fans for years, they also have a lot of bandwagon fans. And as a Warriors fan, I can definitely relate to that because the Warriors and Chiefs as a franchise were on a very similar path from at one point being the worst team in the entire league to turning into a dynasty, which of course is going to attract a lot of bandwagon fans. But most of America, ironically, since they were facing a Canadian team, was rooting against the Warriors when they had a shot to three-peat, when they faced the Raptors in the 2018-2019 NBA Finals. So it is the best matchup between the two best teams, but it is not the matchup that anybody wanted, especially going into championship week. And going into the playoffs, I was hoping for either a Bills-Lions Super Bowl or a Lions-Ravens Super Bowl. Those both would have been really cool to have happened. Also, would have been cool if somehow one of the underdogs like the Chargers or the Texans could have somehow knocked off the Chiefs in the AFC bracket. JD Keeping the Faith also says, you also want Philly to have the Super Bowl hangover, helps the 49ers win the NFC next year. True, absolutely. The Niners are going to absolutely have things can change because, of course, teams are going to make a lot of changes. But as of right now, the 49ers have a last place schedule next season. So they should be favored to win the NFC despite the horrible year this past season. And, of course, Robert Saleh is returning to San Francisco as the defensive coordinator. So that's all said and done, which almost every 49er fan wanted when he was fired as head coach of the New York Jets in the middle of the season last year, or this past season. It looked, before Pete Carroll was hired by the Raiders, it looked as if he was going to be a possible candidate to take over as the Niners defensive coordinator, but thankfully Robert Saleh is going to be returning back to the 49ers. Now, JD points out that Philly already is losing their offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, who just took the Saints head coaching gig. Philly losing will add to the hangover. Wow, I actually did not know that. JD, I was not aware of that, and I also did not know that that was legally able to be allowed before the season officially ends. So that's very interesting. Some breaking news here on the Gold with Danny Golding. Okay, so I'm going to get into I'm going to actually have one of my friends who's going to join the show in a little bit, but I'm going to just do my segment that I like to call Anniversaries and Crazy Stories.
It's now time for Anniversaries.
Happy anniversary.
And Crazy Stories.
It was crazy.
On the Gold with Danny Golding.
All right. Anniversaries, Crazy Stories time. It has been 17 years since Shaquille O'Neal was traded from the Miami Heat to the Phoenix Suns for Sean Marion and Aaron Banks.
Happy anniversary.
And Crazy Stories.
It was crazy.
On the Gold with Danny Golding.
Did not mean to play that a second time, but definitely always happy to show off my producing work on my own show. So actually, I wanted to play a clip for that because that's actually, now, of course, 17 years ago, this month was also Super Bowl 42, which is played here in the Phoenix area in Glendale, which is the second Super Bowl that I ever watched following the first full NFL season that I ever watched in real time, where the Patriots went 16-0. And then we're looking to become the first team since the 1972 Miami Dolphins to go 19-0, but then the New York Giants, Eli Manning, Michael Strahan, and the New York Giants, Brandon Jacobs, all of them knock off the New England Patriots, sending them to 18-1. The miracle, incredible catch, one of the greatest catches in Super Bowl history from Eli Manning to David Tyree. That Super Bowl was amazing. And just about a week later, the Suns acquire Shaquille O'Neal, Shaq, and there's a thing because Steve Kerr was actually the Suns' general manager at that time. I thought I may not have downloaded right, but I had a clip of Steve Kerr that I found on YouTube actually talking about the trade. Let's see if I can. Oh, there we go. I got it right here. This is Steve Kerr, current Warriors coach, 17 years ago, back when he was the GM of the Phoenix Suns, talking about Shaquille O'Neal going to the
Any
Suns.
move you make is a little bit of a roll of the dice. You never really know what's going to happen, but you have to talk about it internally and get everybody's opinion and kind of try to envision it. And again, I get back to the fact that we were only going to feel comfortable doing it if our medical people felt that Shaq had some left in the tank, and if he felt that way as well. And today we were very satisfied on both fronts. From that perspective, I think he's got something left. He's got something to prove. He's always been at his best when he's been a little angry. He even said that today. He pointed up at the TV screen. He said 71% of people in America apparently think this was a bad deal. He said, that makes me angry. And I play best when I'm angry.
Man, those were some crazy times. Man, Steve Kerr looking like he's barely aged in the past almost 20 years. And, with him being the GM of the Suns, when Steph Curry was drafted in 2009, it looked like there was a possibility that the Steve Kerr as the Suns GM was going to try to trade Amari Stoudemire to the Warriors for Steph Curry, which, who knows? I mean, that's a crazy alternate reality to even consider. Speaking of the Phoenix Suns, yesterday was Steve Nash's 51st birthday. Of course, Devin Booker became the all-time, just this past Wednesday, like I mentioned earlier, became the all-time leader in scoring history for the Phoenix Suns. Steve Nash was one of the all-time greats as well. And as a Warrior fan, mostly growing up in Phoenix, having moved here at a young age, and seeing Steve Nash play for the Suns, I'm like, man, I want the Warriors to get a point guard like that. And they had Baron Davis, and then after 2008, when they released him and he goes to the Clippers, which broke my 11-year-old heart, I was like, man, I really want the Warriors to have a Steve Nash type point guard. And sure enough, 2009, Stephen Curry out of Davidson is drafted, and then the rest is absolute history. Now, with LeBron becoming the first player, or becoming the second player since Michael Jordan, and the second player of all time, with Michael Jordan being number one, to score 40 points in a game past his 40th birthday. My question to everyone out there is, will Steph Curry be the third player to score 40 points after hitting his 40th birthday? Because I could very well see that. He'll be 37 next month. And, of course, Kobe, I think he was 41 when he retired, I believe. So there's a good possibility that we will see Steph playing until he's about 41 or maybe even 42. Who knows? I mean, he's not at his prime, but he's got a lot left in the tank. He's showing no signs of slowing down in any way. So my question to everyone out there is, will Steph Curry be the third player in NBA history to score 40 points past their 40th birthday? We have Snoop Dogg absolutely roasting Bill Belichick in the NFL awards.
Honored to be hosting this because I've been a football fan for a long, long time. I mean, I remember back when the Cowboys was good. I remember back when the Chiefs was bad. And I remember, what was it? Bill Belichick's girlfriend wasn't even born yet.
There it is. That's Snoop Dogg at the NFL Awards, absolutely roasting Bill Belichick. 72 years old with a 24-year-old girlfriend. Snoop with absolutely no chill whatsoever. Speaking of roasting, Kendrick Lamar last week at the Grammys wins Record of the Year and Song of the Year for his song Not Like Us, a song dedicated to roasting Drake and calling him a pedophile, which has been a song that everyone has loved to dance to this year. They were having a back and forth feud, a rap battle, to put it more accurately, between them, where Kendrick absolutely destroyed him. And Kendrick has had, he's had a big year this past year. He's had a whole new album of really good songs after, months after the Not Like Us song was released. But what he won 2 Grammys for and what won Song of the Year was his song absolutely roasting Drake. And he is going to be performing halftime in the Super Bowl tomorrow. Now my question is, and honestly, as a fan of Drake too, I really hope he does not do this. Is he going to play Not Like Us? Is he going to, at the Super Bowl halftime show in front of billions of people, in front of the entire world? Will he do that? I don't know. So before I end kind of the main part of this stream and then get my guest who's going to be calling in a few minutes, I wanted to actually end this stream on a kind of a little bit of a serious note. Just last Wednesday of last week, for the first time in 16 years, the United States has had a major airline crash where American Airlines Flight 5342 landing at Ronald Reagan National Airport in Washington, D.C. on final approach collides in midair with a Black Hawk helicopter, military helicopter, resulting in 67 fatalities between both aircrafts, I believe. And, as someone who's kind of an aviation nerd, and a frequent flyer, that tragedy absolutely struck with me. And there's a lot of certain things that it reminded me of. When I was 10 years old back in 2007, I remember, the local news was interrupted by an insane thing that happened where 2 news helicopters collided, covering a police pursuit over downtown Phoenix. And I had actually flown on this small regional airline before, back in 2013, back when it was part of U.S. Airways Express. And it's similar to other accidents, as it was operated by the smaller airline PSA Airlines, which was named after a historic Pacific Southwest PSA Airlines back that was around from the 40s to the late 1980s before merging with U.S. Airways, where there was actually a mid-air collision in 1978 over San Diego, which ended up for briefly being the worst aviation accident in U.S. history. And it's insane too, because I even left a YouTube comment on a video about the last time there was an accident in the U.S. Where, let me pull it up real quickly. Hold on. Give me a sec. Sorry, hold on. Some issues with my stream. Okay. All right, there we go. Okay, I had to get back to my photos. Okay, so yeah, I left this YouTube comment on the documentary for the last time there was a commercial airline crash, on the documentary that was made about it, talking about how it was the last one, and honestly thinking that it would never we might never even see that again in my lifetime. And sure enough, that changed. And I left that comment like about a year and a half ago as well. So just, awful thing that happened, in over DC just a little over a week ago. Very shocking, just incredibly shocking. And it's also very, very similar to an accident that happened back in 1982 where my mom lived in Washington, D.C. when there was a crash that happened in that exact same river, actually on an Air Florida flight that was taking off from that exact same airport that crashed into the river, where there actually were 5 survivors that were rescued. So, very similar to other accidents that have taken place, and very bizarre to see that happen in such a modern timeline. But before I bring on my guest, who I see backstage, I'm actually gonna play something that I put together. Actually, it's a quick. So one of the flight attendants on that flight, it goes by the name Ian Epstein. There's videos of him just being an absolute funny flight attendant who actually put everyone in a good mood and put smiles on everyone's face. So I'm gonna play a clip of him real quickly, because you could tell that this person that we lost way too early just put a smile on everyone's face who we interacted with.
So free, flying away on a wing and a prayer. Believe it or not, it's just me. We hope you enjoyed our hospitality. Marry one of us and you'll always fly for free. Bye, everybody. Stay safe. Thanks for flying with us. And we'll see you again soon on American Airlines. All right, let's get...
All right, so yes, rest in peace to everyone affected who died in that tragedy, and prayers to the families of the people who are still dealing with that. Now, I'm about to bring on my guest. We might preview tomorrow's Super Bowl a little bit, which in my time zone is technically later today, technically speaking. But I wanted to bring on my buddy Tyler Marshall here because there's so many good Super Bowls that have happened in our lifetime, of course. The very last Super Bowl played ever in New Orleans, where this one is going to be played, was the first Super Bowl that the 49ers made in my lifetime, where they came close to making a damn big comeback against the Baltimore Ravens that could have won their 6th Lombardi trophy. That was just an absolute crazy game, where the Niners were down for most of the first half. And then the lights went out at halftime, and the Niners in the second half started to make a incredible comeback. So that's the last Super Bowl played in New Orleans. Of course, I brought up Super Bowl 42. So I think Tyler and I are going to probably preview tomorrow's game a little bit, but I think we're also going to recap some old Super Bowls, some of our favorite ones. And I see Tyler, he's backstage. I see his camera is off. So I'll wait for him to turn his camera back on, and then I will bring him on to the Gold with Danny Golding podcast, streamed live on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. I want to thank my 46 people on X, aka Twitter, that are watching, who I personally think are just bots, because there's no way that many people are watching, but hopefully some of them are legit viewers. Apparently I am live on Instagram. It says that I am. I'm not quite sure if that's working the way that I intended it to, but because it doesn't show my stats whether there's anyone actually viewing it. But yeah, no, it's been a crazy 2025 so far. So much political stuff going on, and country being so divided. I thought, why not? Let's get on. I'm gonna start doing a lot more streams, a lot more shows, like throughout. Hopefully once a week. Hopefully every Saturday night, and maybe Saturday and Tuesday nights or something like that. That's what I'm expecting to do. But we just want we thought that we'd do a stream, talk positivity, talk about good Super Bowl memories. Let me welcome in my guest, Tyler Marshall. Welcome. Welcome to the stream. Are you there? Okay, let's see. Okay, it looks like I think you froze. You might have to reboot this stream. All right, we're working to bring on my guest, but I think he's having some technical issues. And I apologize for doing this stream so late. I know it's 11:40 Pacific Standard Time, 12:40 my time. There we go. Hey, T Marsh, what's going on? Can you hear me okay? Okay, I think you might be muted. Yeah, I think you're muted. I think you're frozen. Let me remove you and add you back to the stage, see if that's any better. Yeah, if you would like to maybe try to join the stream on your phone or something, because I think your computer seems to be having some issues. Okay, he says that I'm lagging. I don't know if that's on my end or your end. Yeah, I'll tell you what. Try joining the stream on your phone. So just okay. Well, there we go. I think. All right, hold on. Let's see. I see you now. Does your mic work? Yeah, you seem to be muted. So maybe try to change your settings or something. You're coming in good. Your picture's coming in good now, but I still unfortunately could not hear you though. So I don't know if you want to maybe try to join the stream on your phone, maybe, or maybe change your mic.
You hear me?
Yes, there you are. Got
Nice.
you.
Hell yeah. Happy to join the party.
Yes, welcome to the party. Unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of people. We got 2 viewers on YouTube, and it says I have 47 viewers on X, aka Twitter, but I have a feeling that most of them are bots because I don't see how that many people could really be viewing.
Yeah, that's a majority of my followers and the people who like or retweet and like all my posts on Twitter. They all seem to be bots. Not one of them is a human sentient being. It's just 50% of Twitter, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
What the world's come to. We don't know if we're talking to a real person or if we're watching a man-made video, whether it's been artificially made or not.
Yeah, I mean, with the way AI is going, I mean, you might have AI taking over these YouTube streams someday.
Yeah. Well, you could say that people in the comment section already maybe aren't real people. They could be bots in there, by a foreign entity that's adversarial to us.
Yes. And so speaking of bots tomorrow, here's a good transition for you. Patrick Mahomes, some people might even be a robot because he doesn't play like a human sometimes, and he's looking for his 3rd straight Super Bowl tomorrow to be the first quarterback in history to actually complete a three-peat when, even Tom Brady or Joe Montana could not do that. And Patrick Mahomes, who's not even 29 yet, about to be 29, has the opportunity to make NFL history tomorrow.
Yeah. I'm thinking maybe 3 years down the line, we're going to sit here and say we have a new GOAT, and it'll be backed up by having Super Bowl rings. It just says it would be just as set in stone if LeBron went out and got 7 rings, but that's probably not going to happen. But Patrick Mahomes probably will end up, I think so, and you would probably agree as well, being the best football player of all time.
That could be a possibility deep into the future. And I think the thing that's most impressive about it, he's doing it a lot younger in his career than Joe Montana and Tom Brady have. I mean, Brady won a Super Bowl earlier in his career, and Montana was pretty early in his career as well, but they both did not have as much success as Mahomes has already had at the young age of 28 turning 29.
What do you think that is? Do you think it's the coaching? You think it's the softness of the league, or is he just that next generational of a talent?
It could possibly be a mix of all three. I definitely think Andy Reid's coaching has, made a big impact. I also think, the former 49er Alex Smith, who went to the Chiefs after he lost his job to Kaepernick in 2012, he was also a big part of mentoring Patrick Mahomes as well for the year that he had to sit behind. I think it was just for one season where he sat behind Alex Smith, I think in the 2017 season, and I think that made an impact as well on him because Alex was a veteran at that point. It was played for over 12 years.
Yeah, that seems to be a pretty common feature. I would say that Aaron Rodgers behind Brett Favre, Tom Brady, the famous Drew Bledsoe play where he got a concussion, then had to come in and play. The backups, after being casted in the person's shadow only for so long, gets the ability to prove themselves, and all of those reps and experiences where they learn from the veteran, the person better than them, allows them to flourish.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And then on the other side, you have the Eagles, who are looking for revenge against the Chiefs, who beat them in the Super Bowl just 2 seasons ago. But they've had such a big impact with adding Saquon Barkley to their team last offseason, which of course went from the division rival New York Giants, and he just had an incredible season this year. It is single-handedly, I mean, Jalen Hurts, of course, is a big impact as well, and AJ Brown as well. But Saquon Barkley has pretty much been like what Christian McCaffrey was for the 49ers last season, this past season.
Yeah, I would say, looking over the past 10 years, Adrian Peterson is a running back that comes to my mind that seems to be of the same caliber as Saquon Barkley. And yet, Adrian Peterson, when he dominated, it seems that he was older. Saquon Barkley is younger and putting up these kind of numbers. And then there's, of course, Christian McCaffrey. He's definitely the best running back, I would say, if not the top 3 up there with McCaffrey in the NFL. And he's just he's a pleasure to watch, and he's a privilege to watch. I've always thought that running backs are the most impressive players on the football field. They're the most athletic. They have the best balance, stability. They are the most dynamic, multifaceted. They can do everything. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and they've been getting paid a lot more than they have in the past in these past few seasons. Of course, what comes to mind, as a Niner fan, Frank Gore, who just absolutely put up incredible numbers on a team that wasn't really that good for most of his career. And once they finally, with Jim Harbaugh started making playoff runs, he got to, show off on the big stage with that. So, running back, definitely the quarterback is definitely the most important position in football, but I could say that the running back would probably be number 2. I mean, even more than, traditionally it probably wasn't the case. I mean, back in the 80s and the 90s, when Jerry Rice was dominating and Randy Moss, later was dominating, the receiver was probably the number 2 position in football. But now I would say it's kind of transformed to running back.
Yeah, I would say so. And I haven't followed the NFL that close, but it seems that over the years, the role of the running back has really expanded. As you said, in the 90s or the 80s, it was predominantly the wide receiver. Now it seems that it's shifted over to the running back. And that has to not just running the ball, of course. You have these immediately a lot more screen passes, just run flat 5 yards out, throw them the ball immediately. Then they're amazing pass blockers as well. It's similar to the quarterback that we've seen that evolve. 10, 15 years ago, Michael Vick was the exception, but quarterbacks didn't run around the way that they do, like you see with Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. But the running back role is changing a little bit as well. They're expecting them to be able to have more skills, to be able to do more, and they're putting them in a position to have to perform more.
Yeah, well, actually, it's funny you mentioned that because we're tomorrow night's matchup is actually going to have two running quarterbacks with Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. I had one question or one point I wanted to bring up, and I've never seen the Chiefs run this play. They called the tush push. I think from an NFL, from a fan perspective, someone who hasn't really watched the NFL in these last couple of years, I don't know. My opinion is I don't think that's good for the league. I think it's
yeah, I would agree. I haven't seen it because I don't watch at that many Eagles games, so I haven't seen it a whole lot. I have seen it. You can look at it two ways. It's a good strategy, but you can also say it kind of ruins the game. I've heard that debate is it good for the game or not?
Yeah. It's maybe the same way Steph Curry kind of changed the league by making a bunch of 3-pointers. By making it entirely oriented about shooting, shots from halfway to rather than, driving mid-range. Maybe we're going to see that same pivot in the NFL. We're going to see more teams start to implement this tush push. Well, it's interesting with the Bills, the Josh Allen play, the controversial one, the 4th and 1 where he didn't get it. I think that was a tush push. So it's not as if, well, I don't know. Was that a tush push play?
So I don't think that one. I'm not sure if that one was or not, but I know that the Bills did do it in that game, and then the Commanders facing the Eagles also attempted it a few times as well. I think I'm pretty sure the Commanders against the Eagles actually converted on 4th down doing the tush push again against the team that was known for that. So it's, especially, in the playoffs, it's, a lot of teams are copycatting that. And I actually thought that, and now looking at the replay again, it looks like it's closer than it looked in real time. But I was rooting hard for the Bills, but I did not think that Josh Allen actually got that first down. And I don't think it's like I can see why a lot of fans are saying, "Oh, Patrick Mahomes is getting another call again." Like the Chiefs are benefiting for that. Again, but I personally do think that call was the correct call. I think because it did not look. It looked like he was. I mean, it's hard to see, because it's in the pile of it's. I would actually have to look at it from a different angle to maybe get the most accurate result, but I think he may have been short there.
Yeah, I only saw it in real time. Well, not in the moment while watching it live. I saw it in a highlight, and I saw the highlight where he did the play, and I thought it looked as if he got it, but I didn't see the replay or a close-up or anything.
Yeah. And man, that's just the Bills.
I think that's going to be a little bit more common of where we're seeing more teams start to do that 4th and inches, and we're putting the refs, I think, kind of in a difficult position because we're measuring centimeters at this point. You could be 4th and inches, and it's just subjective down at this point, and that's why I think I don't know if it's necessarily good for the league and we're going to start as well. That's just my thoughts. What were you going to say? Sorry.
Well, when you bring up going for it on 4th down, which is, of course, you're going to see a lot more in the postseason, but the team that has been doing that so well for the most part, to the point where they almost never punted or go for the field goal in field goal range, is Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions. I mean, you could look at that. I mean, who knows? Maybe in 5 years from now, that'll start a pattern that might change the game too. I mean, because Dan Campbell literally coaches like he's playing Madden, almost going for it on every 4th down attempt. Now, I actually did not watch the game. I actually was watching some of the highlights for it when I was preparing for the stream. I didn't not watch the game when the Commanders upset the Lions in the divisional round. I was actually at the Warriors game, facing coincidentally a Washington team against the Washington Wizards when the Washington Commanders upset the Lions. But so I'm not actually sure if any of the fourth down, if Dan Campbell going for it on fourth down even caused the Lions to lose in that game. But in the NFC Championship game last season, when the Niners came back from being down 24-7 against the Lions, there were a lot of times where Dan Campbell was too conservative and went for it on fourth down. Actually, I think I'm using the term the opposite way actually in this case. But
no, well, given his past behavior and how he's changed, at the time it was too conservative. Considering how he's changed, you said now he goes for it always on fourth down. So that's a correct use of the term. What I was about to say is, you're from a mathematical perspective. It's funny. I saw this from a TV show on Netflix when I was in Idaho staying with my parents, and this little kid that's the premise of the TV show.
Young Sheldon. I saw that too. Actually, that's and actually that's funny. Not to go too much off topic, but I haven't seen Young Sheldon this itself on TV. But I've actually watched a lot of clips on like YouTube Shorts and Facebook Reels and Shorts just of that show, and I feel like I've seen like quite a bit of the 7 seasons just off Reels. But I actually did watch a little bit of that episode you're referring to 4 years ago, because after they had the NFL game that was on Nickelodeon, they actually played that episode with Young Sheldon where he talks about the probability of going for it on fourth down. And if you've also familiar with the Big Bang, which Young Sheldon is, of course, a prequel of the Big Bang Theory, where Sheldon Cooper is considered one of the smartest, scientists, and it's him as a kid, already being in high school as a little kid, and his dad's actually a football coach, and he uses that strategy of, he explains when they're watching a football game actually that Sheldon basically says that statistically punting on fourth down makes no sense and all that, and then his dad ends up. He tells his dad that he should, maybe he should go for it on fourth down. So there's a game that his dad coaches in high school where they go for it on fourth down, they don't get it, but then there's a penalty. He goes for it again. They end up scoring a touchdown on that play, and they win the game. And then Sheldon becomes the hero of his school. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I remember watching that episode. Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. The problem. I was about to you beat me to it. Describe out the scene where he describes the probability. It makes sense from a mathematical perspective that it's easier to get the first down if you come at it from the mindset, we're going to attempt 4 plays rather than 3. It kind of expands your opportunities and it's just a different way of looking. And I'm okay with that. That's fine. I think it's more entertaining. But you're going to see a lot more higher scoring games, and already what we're seeing, and I don't really know too much about this. This is just based off the highlights that I watched. Is that this is an offensive league, that they clearly the commissioner and then all the owners want the teams to score as much as possible because that's what fans like. They don't really care for defense. I mean, whenever someone plays Madden, no one likes playing. We're seeing that with the NBA, Steph Curry, shooting all these teams jacking at 43, scoring 130 points every single game. I think that kind of trend of scoring astronomically high games on both sides, it started in the NBA, and now it's starting to permeate into the NFL. Who knows? I don't know. I don't watch baseball, but maybe.
Well, actually, it's similar when you bring up baseball. Actually, to that, that's part of the reason why they actually added the pitch clock in baseball. It was just kind of extend the pace of play, maybe make it more of an offensive game, which you see which you would have pitchers, not standing around as much, taking too much time between pitches. So that's, and also it's funny when you bring up the NBA as well, because I don't know if this is completely related to this, but Luca Doncic, of course, that big trade. The excuse that the Mavericks that the Mavericks general manager actually made for the trade was that Luca was out of shape and wasn't a big factor on defense, which is kind of like the bullshit thing that you say as a GM. When you're explaining that kind of trade that didn't go well. But there is some truth to that. As I know that Luca isn't that good of a defensive player, despite him being unstoppable on offense. And I wanted to pull up JD's comment real quick. He said all sports want more scoring and pace. It's exciting for a casual fan. No, absolutely, yeah. And baseball games have gone by way faster, and just because of the added pitch clock that it was added just a couple seasons ago.
Can you hear me, Danny?
Yep.
Sorry, I'm only asking that because I took the headphones off. I want to make sure. I think that the way that he put it, a constant flow, it's degrading part of the game. I mean, no more emphasis is placed on defense, which when I played basketball, is way more watchable on TV now. Well, I mean, no one's even. I don't watch enough baseball. I just think, my opinion, when it comes to an offensive league, yeah, that's not necessarily good for the game. It's maybe good for ratings. It's good for fans, but I don't think that's good for the game. That allows them to kind of neglect half of the game and predominantly focus on one half. I mean, that's why you see all the NBA stars, specifically LeBron James, just walking back on defense because he doesn't care. That's not what's going to be put on SportsCenter at the end of the day. It is entertaining for the fan. I don't think it's as competitive either.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, and you've seen Draymond, kind of miss out on a lot of defensive possessions as well.
Oh, I thought he was a defensive star though.
Well, he has been his whole career, but there's still been times when he's like, oh, I'm not gonna do anything on this possession too. You've seen that. I will say that I was Kevin Durant. I talked earlier in my show. I don't know if you saw it. It was rumored he was gonna go back to the Warriors, but he then said the next day that he's not interested, and it looks like he is gonna stay in Phoenix at that point. Now, some people were speculating whether it may have been because of Draymond, and I personally think that it's more because he wants to try to win a ring without Steph Curry, which I don't know if he's capable of actually doing.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Sorry, we'll come back to the Kevin Durant chasing rings. I just want to read the comment.
Yeah.
For sports, but these leagues only care about money. They don't care about the integrated example, NFL players, safety, blah, 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 but more games. NFL players. Oh, right. It's more entertaining. I think NBA is the best example of this. And I've heard an NBA star, I can't forget the name, but he was saying that
Tyler, you're lagging a little bit. Let me
if you look at a Tim Duncan, the reason why I come back.
Okay, you're
good. But yeah,
you're good now. You're good now. I can hear you now. Yeah,
about the shift, how they can do more. They can jump higher. They can run faster. They're stronger, but they're not better basketball players. Because, I mean, look at Tim Duncan. He's just a king of the fundamentals. That kind of player will always be able to succeed in the NBA. But and NBA is changing because kind of their ratings, I don't know if it's just because of China, but they seem to be falling in the United States. And they're superstars. They don't have a LeBron James or a Kobe Bryant in the future to kind of take their mantle. But back to the Kevin Durant trade. Yeah, I don't – maybe if Draymond Green wasn't traded for him, no way he wanted to go back and play for him. I don't think he's going to win a ring with Devin Booker, but I don't know. I wouldn't want to play with Draymond either.
Right. No, it's interesting because Draymond has had KD on his podcast since then, and it appeared that they did make up. So it's not that proves that all of a sudden they're completely kumbaya and would want to play together. It's putting it too lightly. But I think it has more to probably do with wanting to maybe win a ring without Steph. And yes, I agree. I don't think he is gonna necessarily win one with Devin Booker. And that's, which by the way, Devin Booker, I don't know if you heard me mention earlier, he actually set the all-time Suns scoring record this past week.
Oh, really? No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he scored, and I'm surprised, when you have so many people on, when you have Charles Barkley and Steve Nash and, so many historic players that have played for the Suns, that honestly surprised me. I mean, he's played for them for about 9 seasons. It'll be his 10th year later this year. He's already the leading scorer in their entire franchise history, and I mean, he almost won a ring just a few years ago too. But actually, I wanted to mention something on JD's comment. Actually, pull that. Or actually, I didn't read the previous one of where he talks about, or the one about the player's safety. Actually, now, what proves that the NFL only cares about money, doesn't really give a shit about player safety, is the fact that we have 17 games now instead of 16 games, which I thought it was, perfectly fine to just have 16 games. You have, 18 weeks now in 17 games. And also the fact that, as long as I've watched the NFL, there's always been Thursday night football. But I know that back when Thursday night football was first introduced, a lot of people did not like it, for the concern of player safety and the fact that there are a lot of teams that'll play on Sunday and then play right again on Thursday.
Yeah, I remember Richard Sherman actually, Roger Goodell about that. And I never thought about it that way. And after I read his statement about playing on Thursday after barely recovering 4 days ago from your game on Sunday, that is excessive. I could see why. I wouldn't be a fan of that either. And I think that is emblematic on why the NFL is more concerned with money than they are players. 100%.
One of the craziest times I remember as an example of that actually is, and I might be misremembering it a little bit, it may possibly have been a Sunday, but I'm pretty sure. So Sean Taylor was murdered back in 2007 when playing for the then Washington Redskins. And the Redskins ended up having a Monday night game the following week after, and then they went to his funeral, and then they had a Thursday night game that same week, which is, pretty insane. And I'm pretty sure that, if that was the case where they would have a team play on Monday and then on Thursday, that now at least they wouldn't have that. They would at least have, the teams go from Sunday to Thursday at least.
Damn. He literally picked the worst time to die. He couldn't have died 2 weeks later. He really left his team in a dark place. He just left a gaping wide open hole that he could have filled if he could have just stayed alive, another 2 weeks. But
no comment on that. Okay, yeah. Thanks for the correction, JD. Yeah, that's what I think. Maybe it was some Sunday night game before the Thursday night game that I'm remembering. And he also makes a comment about Draymond. He said the Warriors' blind allegiance to Draymond is mind-blowing. He's causing players to leave or not want to come in, and he's not even good enough anymore. What's the point? He's a clown. I mean, hey, he's still a good player, but after the whole Jordan Poole incident, like a lot of Warrior fans, I did want Draymond to be the player that left and Jordan to be the player that stayed. And it's funny, when I went to the Warriors game in San Francisco when they were playing the Wizards, Jordan Poole got introduced as a visiting player who's actually despite having a bad season last year, has actually had a pretty good season this year, despite the Wizards being a bad team. He got mostly cheered and then booed by like a few people in his introduction, which I don't get why anyone would really boo a player that got punched after and won them a championship. But but
yeah,
I think I mean, not only that, the fact that they traded Jordan Poole for Chris Paul, who I wasn't completely against that trade. But he wasn't.
Oh, horrible trade. Horrible trade.
Well, yeah, just based on the age alone. Although, I knew that Chris Paul definitely had some stuff left in the tank because he did help the Suns with Devin Booker get to an NBA Finals, just a couple of years before that. And, I thought he could be a good mentor for the young guys. I mean, but he was also one of the most hated players overall. You would see him. He's probably known for flopping the most and all that. By the way, JD, since you're in here and I know you're a Kings fan, what do you think about the DeMarcus or not the? I mean, sorry, what do you think about the De'Aaron Fox trade to the Spurs? Because that was one of the big. Well, of course, it was overshadowed by the Luca trade, but that was also a pretty important trade that happened last week as well. And yes, I could absolutely see Draymond and Jimmy Butler. Hopefully they don't actually get into a physical fight. Hopefully it'll just be like a yelling match or something. But I could definitely see Draymond and Jimmy Butler, who both have big egos, excuse me, causing some trouble this season.
You know what was interesting to me about the fact that the San Francisco, the Warriors were that dumb to pick up Chris Paul, as expensive as he is at the age that he was at, and think that was going to be a good fit. San Antonio Spurs hit the nail right on the head for his role, which is, as you alluded to earlier, to be a mentor, to be a veteran to a younger developing player, which is exactly what he's doing in San Francisco with Wembanyama. And he did the exact same thing in Phoenix with DeAndre Ayton. So that is mind-boggling to me that the Warriors would make that big of a dumbfounded mistake. I mean, Chris Paul, anyone, no one with a rational mind, with a properly working brain could have said full-heartedly that was going to be a good, logical, reasonable, and rational trade.
Oh yeah, and I'm glad that the Warriors didn't give away Jonathan Kuminga to get KD, even though when I at the time was kind of thinking, okay, I wouldn't even mind because maybe he would be the one exception where I'd consider letting Kuminga walk if they're going to actually get Kevin Durant back. But overall, the fact that they were able to get a 35-year-old Jimmy Butler, it went out to a good start tonight. He had a good game.
He's 35. Holy shit.
Yeah, he got drafted. He's been in the league since 2011, but he's still a pretty good player for his age. But the fact that they didn't lose Jonathan Kuminga, I think, was the biggest plus in the trade. And JD responds to the question. He says, "I hate the Kings always trading away franchise players, but they were never going to win with them either. So I don't mind blowing things up." Yeah, because I mean, if the Kings were able to gotten past the play, and if they were able to win that game against the Pelicans, I thought that they could have done something in the playoffs last season.
I wanted to touch on the point where JD said something about Draymond, and it's baffling to him on why they're sticking with him and they continue to. Yeah, here we go. It's not even good anymore. What's the point? I think with Draymond, and correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's similar to the Bronny James situation. He sells tickets. He sells jerseys. I mean, maybe he doesn't produce on the court, but he's good enough and he has a big enough ego and kind of brand behind him that it does make sense from a financial perspective, not from a efficiency or basketball or championship perspective. No, from a management perspective, you want this guy because the fans are surrounded him. I mean, there's fans that are never going to sit there and bash Draymond, or they will, but they're always going to stand behind him no matter what he does. And I think from that perspective, yeah, you keep a player on like that. I mean, just last night, he got a technical and he got thrown out for acting like an adolescent. That's entertaining. That was all over SportsCenter. I mean, I don't even watch the NBA. I didn't even watch any of the highlights of the game. I saw that, though. I mean, it pays to have a villain that everyone hates, because if you love everyone, no one's going to want to tune in. They see Draymond, they hate him. That makes the game that much more entertaining. That makes them want to tune in to watch him lose.
Yeah, and also another element to that is the fact that they lost when losing Klay Thompson last year. They for the fans, they want to at least have two of the big three from that won all those championships, and the fact that you can't have all three. Now, if Klay was gonna stay, I could have seen Draymond maybe living in that case, but that's another reason why I don't expect. I could see Draymond not ever leaving the Warriors, or I could. see him at least, maybe a year from now leaving as well. And I wouldn't even be 100% shocked if it happened during the offseason. I wouldn't expect it to, but I could see it going kind of one of three ways. But I say most likely you are going to see him finish out his career in Golden State, just like Steph most likely will as well at this point.
JD's comment about good winning players sell jerseys. I maybe from a passionate fan perspective or a diehard basketball fan, but someone who's just kind of in the middle intermediate level, doesn't really kind of passively pays attention. I would bring up Jonathan Isaac actually as a counter to that, who during 2020 led the NBA in the most jersey sales. Yeah, I think he got injured that next year, and he's not even a premier or a prime player of any sort. Yet there's a large attraction to him, and it has nothing to do with basketball. It's all off court or kind of a symbol or some of his political views that he's came out. So the Draymond, the KD, yeah, that probably would have traded him more tickets, but I mean, KD's got a big ego too. I mean, how many you can only move the pieces around the chessboard so much until you just put yourself in a position where it's just a dead weight withdrawal outright. You can't proceed going forward. I don't know. I just think Draymond, similar to the Bronny James, Danny's got a jersey of him. I mean, the dude's averaged 5 points in a finals, yet he's got hundreds of millions of followers. And
he has his own brand also. Like he pretty much, like he has a brand that's apart from basketball. I mean, I remember Draymond as a rookie, and he was really fun to watch. He was a really good young player that I remember. Him and LeBron got into a fight, a little bit of a shouting match or something, in his rookie year when LeBron was on the Heat. And I'm like, dang, this young player is already trying to, go after LeBron James. But, now, with his podcast that he has and all the, the off the court stuff, that's also a part of his brand that also, sells tickets. And, the fact that he's a part-time analyst sometimes with Chuck, Kenny Smith and Ernie Johnson, Shaq, and all them too.
Yeah, that's another good point. He's a fan favorite just in general, off the court as well.
Essentially, actually, so he does a podcast with actually Warriors legend Baron Davis is actually now his co-host, and supposedly, and it's kind of odd that he even does this, as an NBA player, but he'll talk about the other teams making trades, and I think he made a point, saying that he didn't think Jimmy Butler was a good move a week or so before they ended up trading for him. I didn't hear the clip from the pod. That's what I thought I heard he had said, which is, so that's, he's the only one that has the ability to really do that. And, although he can be, a jerk and a diva a lot of times, I do like how he speaks what's on his mind. He's not afraid to say certain things. And I will say that with an exception for the 8-second violation call miss on Thursday night's game, where Steve Kerr also was pissed as well, Draymond, for the most part, has done a better job controlling his emotions and since he was suspended for the second time last season. But actually, I wanted to shift gears a little bit or actually, Tyler, I'll let you, if you wanted to say anything to that point before we shift gears a little bit. Because I wanted to actually discuss some of the memorable Super Bowls. Yeah, you're muted. Yeah, do you want to let me remove you off the stream and then add you back? Add you back to the stage. See if that does it. Yeah, your thing is kind of lagging. I think your mic somehow is muted. So try to. Yep, got it now. Oh, you're lagging a little bit, but I can hear you. So hold on. Let me just do this real quick. All right. Yep. Loud and clear now.
I was about to say.
Okay, well that's all good. We can shift.
What were you just saying? All right, that's fine.
Yeah, I just wanted to get into. So we're talking about favorite Super Bowl memories. I would say. Now I brought up earlier how Super Bowl 42, 2007 season played in February of 2008 was probably my favorite Super Bowl, and I can't really say any of the Niners ones were because they've lost all three that have happened in my lifetime. So I would say that's probably my favorite Super Bowl that I have seen. It was played in Glendale, and I went to the NFL experience for it. I just remember in that playoff during those playoffs, I was rooting for the New York Giants as if they were my own team, because I was just, I had a feeling that they could knock off the Patriots. I mean, they were the team that everyone was rooting against, and I thought they were the best team in the NFC that had a possibility to do that. And they had that epic NFC Championship game against the Green Bay Packers. They played in the snow before that. So I think that would be my favorite. Tyler, what would you say? What would you say would be your favorite Super Bowl that you've watched?
It would be the same as yours. You said 42.
Yeah.
2007, 18-1 or 19-1 Patriots.
Yeah, that was when the Patriots would have gone 19-0 if they had won, and they would have been the second team to do that since the 1972 Miami Dolphins, which is actually kind of ironic because that same season, the Dolphins almost went 0-16, which would have been really ironic if that had happened the same year where the Patriots beat the Dolphins record, I remember. But yeah, the Giants ended up knocking him off, and then the Giants beat the Patriots again in the 2011-2012 Super Bowl, which of course was that one I wasn't as happy about because the Niners should have been the team that had played the Patriots that season. But
you think they would have won though?
I don't know. It's really hard to say whether they would have or not. I mean, I guess the Giants probably were. Eli was probably more. Well, actually, no. Alex Smith was still the quarterback, and he's been in the league for almost as long as Eli was. So it's really hard to say actually. But I mean, the Patriots did lose that Super Bowl, so and they had so much momentum going on that maybe they could have. I mean that would have been insane. I mean, Jim Harbaugh would have never been fired had they won the Super Bowl that season. I don't think.
Yeah, I didn't even know he was fired actually.
Well, he got fired. So that was his first season where the Niners, after owner Mike Singletary the year before that season, went 6-10. So Jim Harbaugh ends up going to 3 straight NFC Championship games, Super Bowl appearance where they lost to the Ravens, but in the 2014 season, it was reported in the middle of the season that he was not going to be back, despite the owner Jed York on Twitter saying that Jim's our coach and all that. They ended up going 8-8, but he got fired because just basically for not being able to get along with Jed York and Trent Baalke.
Huh.
Shout out. Go ahead. Yes. Go ahead real quick.
I was just gonna say, I remember. I don't know if I watched that game. I just know that the Giants that season, I think they were 9-7. The second time they played the Patriots and they beat them, it was just like the first one. I mean, it was a flip of the coin. Any team could have gone. It literally was just lock at that point. Came down to inches.
Want to give a shout out to Where You're Hiding. He's a big Eagles fan, actually. He says he can't sleep. He's already pumped up for tomorrow. Well, it's technically later today's game. And Where You're Hiding, do you have a score prediction for Super Bowl 59? Now, and I gave you a shout out earlier, actually, on this stream. I was talking about how, I'm cool with you. Shout out to you. Shout out to Rob Abrams. Shout out to PR. Shout out to Philly Zorko. 2 of those people I met in real life. But there's a lot of classless Eagles fans, unfortunately, though, at the same time. And as a Niner fan, if any team's going to knock off the Chiefs besides Tom Brady, besides the team quarterback by Tom Brady. I want it to be my San Francisco 49ers. I don't want the Eagles to be the team that knocks off the Chiefs, in my opinion. But honestly, if the Eagles were to win, I wouldn't be upset though. At the same time, because they've been a really fun team to watch, with Jalen Hurts and Saquon and AJ Brown and all them. It's the first year without Jason Kelce since I think is probably his rookie year actually when he played for Philly. And just last season, well, 2 seasons ago, of course, you guys knocked off us in that NFC Championship game, which wasn't really fair because Purdy got injured just really early in that game. So I definitely was not rooting for the Eagles in that Super Bowl, but I just like this Super Bowl. It was kind of torn because I not really high on either the Chiefs or the Eagles, but I was rooting for the Chiefs in that one. And I'm not rooting for the Chiefs necessarily as much in the Super Bowl, but I am going to root for them just for the fact that I don't want the Eagles to be the team that knocks them off. Actually, I wanted to actually give a birthday shout out to one of my other co-hosts who sometimes goes on with me, Sean. It's his 25th birthday, and technically that was yesterday now, and it is also Klay Thompson. February 8th was also Klay Thompson's 35th birthday as well. So I'll give some birthday shout outs here live on the Gold with Danny Golding, and appreciate where you're hiding in JD for participating in this stream with T Marsh and I here. We were actually live on Instagram for the first hour of my stream, but then the Instagram thing got cut off, so now we're live on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Oh, is it Saquon Barkley's birthday as well? Let's see. Oh, I think that's today. I think I did see that. Yeah, Saquon's birthday is February 9th. That would be really cool for Saquon if he's able to get a Super Bowl on his birthday. That's definitely. It'll be memorable no matter what. Just the fact that playing in a Super Bowl on your birthday is. I don't wonder if that's ever happened before. Actually, and what's interesting is now he's from the Bronx. I'm seeing on his Wikipedia page. And of course, he played for the New York Giants, which would be technically along with the Jets, be his hometown team. But the Eagles and Giants, I think, are one of the best rivalries in football because they are geographically really close to each other. They are within about a 3 to 4 hour drive from each other. So I'm pretty sure. I don't know if Saquon actually grew up. He could have grown up an Eagles, or he could have grown up a Giants or a Jets fan, but he also could have grown up an Eagles fan too, with them all being in close proximity to each other. So he's going to win he's playing in a Super Bowl for a team that, he kind of grew up in the area of. Yeah, the tri-state area, yep. Yes, indeed. And now we're talking about Super Bowls that we have liked. One of the ones that I have not liked that a lot of people would agree would be one of the worst ones was the one that was played in the 2018-19 year between the Rams and the Patriots. That was probably one of the most low-scoring Super Bowls I have seen.
Yeah, I think I remember correctly. I watched that one live as well. It was a boring one. The Rams didn't even score a touchdown. It was 10-3 or something. Forget what it was, or 13-3.
Yeah, the Rams only scored 3 points in that Super Bowl. Yeah. And actually, it's interesting. The Chiefs have of course a lot of bandwagon fans, but it's interesting. I'm sure there actually are a lot of former Rams fans from when the Rams were in St. Louis that may have become Chiefs fans before they had won Super Bowls because the Rams moved back to LA. And with being in the same state, I can see why that they could have gotten some fans that wouldn't necessarily be considered bandwagon fans because they they were only kind of in their early stages of being good at that point. So that with the Rams not, being, and the Rams had already moved back to LA at the point of that Super Bowl. But the Chiefs, have their whole state of Missouri, which definitely played a part in their success as well. Where Hayden says, I hate the Giants, but Giants versus Pats 07-08 Super Bowl was one of the best Super Bowls ever. Yeah, absolutely. Just indeed. And the fact that that was played in my area and I, was able to go to the NFL experience for it and everything. Yeah, that was really special. And the Eli Manning to David Tyree catch was amazing. One thing I remember that actually happened, I think pretty sure it was the next offseason after that Super Bowl, was Plexico Burress accidentally shooting himself on the foot. So I don't know if you remember when that happened.
No, but probably, yeah. Literally and figuratively, probably destroyed his NFL career after that.
Yeah. Well, he still played for a few more years after, but he wasn't the same. I remember SNL had a hilarious skit on that where he was asked, "So why don't you have your gun on safety?" He's like, "I'm a receiver. That's what I hate the most: cornerbacks and safeties."
That's pretty funny. Well, it's nice that he can, joke about it, but that probably made him lose out on millions of dollars or a potential, next a record-breaking season, honestly. But good for him.
Yeah, that was insane. And of course, Michael Shanahan was also a big part of that team, who ended up, being an NFL analyst, but did more than just that. It was also ended up being an actual host on a regular CBS morning show or I think it was NBC actually, with Kelly Ripaw taking over for Regis Feldman, actually. So I mean, that's he definitely made a name for himself after that Super Bowl as well. One thing I do remember, actually, I remember before that Super Bowl, actually, that I think it may have been Brady. Now, one of the Giants players, I forget who it was, did a score prediction that had the Patriots only scoring 17 points. And I remember it was either Brady or it was someone else on the Patriots that was like, "Oh, we're only going to score 17 points." Okay. But then the Patriots didn't even score 17 points in that Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. It's funny. I just saw a clip the other day in front of a rapper, some famous rapper who was on a podcast, and he accidentally shot himself in the middle of an interview in the leg with his gun. So
was he just playing with it? Damn,
I don't know. Maybe he was reaching and something. Yeah, he accidentally shot himself on camera in the middle of the interview. But we're talking so much about the 07 Super Bowl. Wasn't it 3 or 4 years before the Patriots? Wasn't it against the Eagles and the Rams where it was
the Patriots did
where they were able to win?
Yeah, the Patriots did play the Eagles in a Super Bowl with Donovan McNabb. I think that was the 04 season, I believe. I did not watch yet at that point, but I do know that. I don't think I've ever even watched. I think that's the game where Donovan McNabb threw up, and where you're hiding in the chat could definitely could definitely attest to this and explain to me the details of that.
What was the Super Bowl? I think it was in 1998. It was the Rams and another team, but the Rams, I think, came within 3 feet of winning on the final game-winning drive. Do you remember the one I'm talking about? Let's look it up right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm actually the first Rams Super Bowl that I'm thinking of actually was the one that they won with Kurt Warner, which I think was probably in 2000, maybe.
Oh, it was the Titans Super Bowl of 1999. The Rams beat the Titans 23-16. But if you remember the final play, they had one play to get it into the end zone to tie it, and he came within a couple feet of scoring. Yeah, that was one of the more exciting Super Bowls as well.
Well, yeah, that's actually, and that was Kurt Warner, of course, the Super Bowl. And
yeah, good memory.
And that's interesting because I think, didn't they make an actual Disney movie about his story? He was literally a grocery store stalker who had played in the Arena League before, and then ends up getting an opportunity and ends up winning the Super Bowl. And I actually, living in the Phoenix area when the Cardinals made it to the Super Bowl against the Steelers, that was an incredible year that Kurt Warner had as well. He had a chance to win his second Super Bowl then as well, which would have even added to his legacy.
Oh, that's another Super Bowl that's up there. Oh, that was so frustrating. Did you watch that one live?
I did, yes. What's funny actually though is even being in Arizona, I went to before that game, like in the morning during the day, Harold's, which of course Tyler, is a big Steelers bar/restaurant just 5 minutes away from me in Cave Creek, AZ. They had a whole truck of like a whole Steelers truck where they had Madden arcades and all kinds of festivities, and they had like a big party. They definitely took over enemy territory in that one. And that was the last Super Bowl that the Steelers have won, and they had won their 6th Super Bowl actually. Now I was rooting for the Cardinals in that. There were a lot of Niner fans that were not, with them being the division rival. But another reason why some Niner fans were actually was because the Niners and the Steelers and the Cowboys were all tied for 5 Super Bowls at that point. And then with the Steelers having won that Super Bowl, they ended up passing the 49ers and got 6 Super Bowls. And of course, Mike Tomlin, along with John Harbaugh, are both the longest tenured NFL coaches now. And, part of the reason why Mike Tomlin still has his job with the Steelers is because he's had some success and he still has that Super Bowl ring. So you can kind of see why he's pretty much made the playoffs almost every season. I think this may have been, he's probably been a couple seasons, including this one where he has not, but that's another big reason why Mike Tomlin is able to keep his job for so many years as well. And yeah, that's and yes, where you're hiding, yeah, that Eagle, which I've never even seen highlights of that game. I just remember a hilarious time when PR, the Eagles fan, made fun of Jonathan McNabb one time, I think, for pretending to throw up or something in a video. And so I do know about that. And it's actually interesting. So this is the third. Well, so the Patriots and the Eagles have played in 2 Super Bowls, and now the now the Eagles and the Chiefs have now also played in 2 Super Bowls as well. All right, so I'm so glad Arizona doesn't have a ring still. In fact, did you know the Cardinals until the Texans joined the NFL was in our NFC East? Yes, I do know that. In fact, yes, and yeah, there were some very geographically messed up divisions, with one of them being the Cardinals being in the NFC East, which also, of course, had the Falcons and the Saints being with the Niners in the NFC West as well. And right now, the only out-of-place division in the NFL team, kind of out of place, would be the Cowboys being in the NFC East. Other than that, it's mostly geographically correct. However, Texas is still east of me, so I kind of think, well, it's at least it's still east of some part of the country. But the main reason why they are in that division is to keep their rivalry alive with the New York Giants, actually. But actually, I think we might end this stream in a few minutes. So Tyler, do you have some final thoughts? Maybe some other memorable Super Bowls you want to get into, or anything on your mind? Oh yeah, that's actually true. Yeah, the Colts probably shouldn't be in the. Yeah, Colts probably shouldn't be in the AFC South. It would be more geographically correct if they were in the AFC North. Good point. Oh, it looks like you're muted, unfortunately. And while you get yourself settled, I want to thank all my viewers on Twitter, YouTube, and earlier on Instagram, if anyone joined, and then on X. Okay, I think your thing's working again. I hear your background noise, so I think you're. Yes.
I don't know what I did, but I'm glad that I fixed it. I wish all the other problems in my life went away that easily. But I was about to say, it's the Super Bowl. The opening play, the Devin Hester returned it for a touchdown. They ended up losing. The Bears did 29-17. But I remember watching that in real time, being so deflated.
Yes, so you cut out a little bit, but that was. Oh yeah, okay, that's right. Actually, I saw a highlight of that recently. Actually, so that was the first Super Bowl that I had actually watched, and that was Super Bowl 41, a year before the one that 42 that we referenced. Yeah, that was incredible. I actually, you know what's interesting is when they showed the clip of Devin Hester's kickoff, opening kickoff for the return for the touchdown. One thing that's kind of cool back then is it was before the first iPhone came out, before smartphones existed. So there were a lot of people in the stands that had digital cameras. So you could see the flashes of the digital camera up in the stands all going off at once. If you look in the background of that, you can see like a whole bunch of flashes from the stands that are all people filming it on their digital cameras.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and watch the play. Maybe I'll rewatch it tonight. I haven't seen the clip of that play in over a decade, probably. But yeah, it'd be a fun play to watch. Sure, absolutely. Sorry. I'll give it back to you, Danny.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for everyone for watching. I actually wanted to give a quick shout out. I noticed that longtime Bay Area legend, former Golden State Warrior, who's part of the Warriors home broadcast on the radio, who got laid off from KNBR a few months ago. He actually just started his own YouTube channel, Tom Tolbert. I believe I just saw that on Twitter. So give him a subscription. I think his YouTube is at Tom Tolbert Show. So yeah, give him a sub, and thank you for Tyler for joining the show. Yep. Appreciate it. And thank you for everyone who has watched on all platforms. And as we conclude the gold with Danny Golding, I want to sign off with the golden rule: treat other people the way you want to be treated. Peace.